Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Togozani Mapena. Thank you so much for tuning in. I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing, thank you for liking, and thank you for actually watching my work. I really appreciate it. So today, class is in session. I am going to be sharing my knowledge with cerebral palsy, the causes of its symptoms, and maybe treatment depending on the time and the length of the video. I'll share the treatment, but if not, I'll just make a separate video at a different time with that. I hope that, you know, they're not going to be tears, and I hope that you guys learn something. So I'm going to be using my cell phone to go on the internet and to read some definitions off of Wikipedia. That's what I'm going to be using. And yeah, like, I don't want to waste time. Let's just get into it. Okay. By definition, cerebral palsy is a group of permanent movement disorders that appear in early childhood. Signs and symptoms vary among people and over time. Often symptoms include poor coordination, stiff muscles, weak muscles, and tremors. There may be problems with sensation, vision, hearing, swallowing, and speaking. Often, babies with cerebral palsy do not roll over, sit, crawl, or walk as early as other children of their age. Other symptoms include seizures and problems with thinking or reasoning, which can occur in about 1/3 of people with cerebral palsy. Okay, so the different types of cerebral palsy, I'm only going to speak on, well, I'm going to define 3 of them, and I'm going to speak on 1, which is what my baby sister has. Alright, so it's very important to note that cerebral palsy with age may worsen, and depending on the diagnosis and how intense that that diagnosis is, symptoms really just vary from one person to another, and over the years they just deteriorate. So the 3 different types that I'm going to speak on are: people with stiff muscles have what we call spastic cerebral palsy, which is what my younger sister has. And then there are people with poor coordination, which we call as having atax cerebral palsy, and those that with writhing movement have what we call athetoid cerebral palsy. Diagnosis is based on the child's development over time. Blood test and medical imaging may be used to rule out other possible causes. Okay, so cerebral palsy is caused by abnormal development or damage to the parts of the brain that control movement, balance, and posture. Before I put in my opinion, let me just go into what my baby sister has, because that's what I'm more comfortable discussing and going into detail with. Spastic cerebral palsy is the type of cerebral palsy wherein spasticity is the exclusive impairment present. Under what it means. What it means basically is that it encompasses spastic hemiplegia, spastic diplegia, spastic quadriplegia, and wherein solely one limb or the specific area of a body is affected. So what this means is that parts of the limbs, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe all 4, are affected, and they become stiff, and they develop tremors, and they absolutely are immobile, if I can put it that way. Okay, spastic cerebral palsy affects the cerebral cortex and is overwhelmingly the most common type of overall cerebral palsy, and that is what my baby sister has. Right. So the signs and symptoms of people with spastic cerebral palsy: muscles are spastic and are continuously contracting or tight because the corresponding nerve permanently overfire the command to tighten. Spastic quadriplegia also presents a range of symptoms that affect the musculature. Many experience contractures, which are defined as joints that cannot be stretched or moved. Clonus is another symptom that is characterized by alternating rapid muscle contractions and relaxation. This presents itself as tremors and scissoring. My baby sister has that tremors on her legs especially. Sometimes they'll just have tremors uncontrollably and unwarranted. nothing should happen, it just happens. And then her legs scissor, which is why we always need to try and have something that will be between her legs so they do not scissor, because that also poses another medical, or that poses another danger towards her medical condition. Okay, so we have something else that is defined, that is known as dystonia, or lasting muscle contractions and tightness. It is often experienced by those affected by spastic quadriplegia. These involuntary muscle contractions may affect the development of structural muscle around the hip and lead to hip dysplasia and dislocation, making it difficult to sit. So my baby sister also has that. One of her legs is dislocated from her hip, which absolutely definitely does make it uncomfortable for her to sit for longer periods, and it does causes a bit more pain, especially now that she's growing. I think her leg was dislocated from her hip maybe in 2011 or 2010. That's when we started seeing it, but it became more and more severe over the years. Like we can't say for sure when it happened. We can't say if it happened overnight or was something that happened progressively, but one of her legs is actually dislocated from her hip, which is why her wheelchair has one, there's like a piece of the chair that's protruding to support the leg that is out of the hip bone. So yes, there's definitely pain in that. I think now to put my phone down and to explain. So in just putting it in a nutshell, my baby sister has spastic cerebral palsy, meaning that she does not have use over her limbs. She experiences contractions. They are tight in the muscle joints. Her arms are like this, and her legs are bent permanently. And over the years, the pain has gotten more and more and more intense. But when it started, she wasn't experiencing pain. She wasn't in a lot of pain, maybe discomfort. And we have to learn of ways to make her life comfortable physically before we get internally. Let me explain this. Because of her condition, she develops scoliosis as well. So she does not have use of her limbs. She can't speak. She can't sit on her own. She develops scoliosis. Her leg is dislocated from a hip bone. One leg, I think the right one, is dislocated from her hip bone, so she experiences discomfort sitting down. And because of the scoliosis has gotten worse, meaning that her spine is bent. So she sits on the side like this, and we always, every day, every single time she sits down, we have to balance her. She's got a wheelchair, but she's outgrown that. So we have to make sure that she's balanced, sitting on the side, to make sure that we try to get the spine as straight as possible. Now, another side effect of her physical symptoms is that the older she grows, the more her organs inside grow, because she's growing and she's getting bigger. So the more they grow, but because of her scoliosis and the bending of her spine, her rib cage does not create enough space for those organs, meaning that the older she grows, the more squashed her organs become, and the more difficult it becomes for her to breathe, the more difficult it becomes for her to digest food and to get food down. So she develops acid reflux. Like, she's got a lot of acid, she has to be on medication for that. And there were years where literally there were years where she would vomit every single day, and sometimes multiple times a day. And she couldn't eat. We tried medications, but some of those medications didn't work. And she was so underweight, and she was so unhappy because of that pain, never mind just the physical pain of having this condition, but the pain of not being able to keep food down. And of course, if you're not eating and you're not digesting anything, your immune system is compromised and you become malnutritioned. And then again, somehow, one of our doctors gave her, because they're constantly doing research and they're constantly trying out new medications. So by the grace of God, she was given some medication, which are capsules she takes every day, once a day, that help keep the acid down and the reflux down. So now she's able to eat. But I think the worst part about cerebral palsy is that you tackle one thing today, tomorrow it could be another thing. You could have like the most perfect day, and by perfect day meaning no seizures, no pain, nothing, she's most comfortable, and then you go to bed at 9 o'clock and then you are woken at 10:15 and she's screaming and she's crying because something is wrong. Sometimes we'd wake up during the night because she just vomited out of nowhere. So these are some of the symptoms that people with cerebral palsy go through. And it takes a village to raise a normal child. It takes twice that village to raise or to live with someone with cerebral palsy. My baby sister was given a lifespan of 13 years, and because of the severity of her condition, doctors just couldn't see her living past 13 years of life. In 5 weeks she'll be turning 20. So it's understanding that it takes twice the village, because you need a team of medical experts. You need a team of family members who are going to be there when you need help, because outside of that condition there's life. There are things that we have to do, the things that my parents have had to do, the things that we are required to be a part of, because again, there's life outside of us. And you need a team of people outside your family, which we call as friends, to support you through this. And unfortunately, you will not have a life as normal as every other person of your age group, or of your friends, or a circle of people around you. It's going to be different, because you're required more at home to help with that than you would be outside. And it sucks, because sometimes I do feel like I'm not present enough in my friends' lives, and I know they understand this and they want to be a part of it and they want to help, but sometimes you just want to feel normal, because unfortunately this condition does not only affect the person affected or the person that has it. It affects everyone in the family, because for 20 years, almost 20 years now, we've had to base our lives around that. So it's not very easy to just fully think about yourself without thinking about the next person, without thinking about her. So it's definitely having to deal with that every single day, and the fear and the guilt that comes with it. Like, we do not discuss enough the fear and the guilt that comes with it every single day. Every single day. No matter how positive you are, no matter how believing you are, no matter how faithful you are, no matter how much you try to fill your brain with positive thoughts, any single thing that happens to you thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Are we going to the hospital? Is she okay? You always constantly have those thoughts, no matter how much you try to fill them with positivity and happiness. And you see today she's fine, she's happy, but you go to sleep, it could change. You have that fear in you that something is going to happen to her, and you want to do everything in your power to to stop it from happening, but unfortunately it will happen. And then the guilt is just really, apart from my parents' guilt, I think, speaking for myself, is just the guilt of how dare I have a normal life outside and not include her. So I try to be outside and to be as normal as possible and to have friends and to do things, but it becomes very difficult because sometimes I regard myself as her friend, she regards me as her friend, so I always want to make sure that she is absolutely happy before I put myself first. And I get people all the time like, oh no, you need to take a break, put yourself first, and I get where they're coming from, but sometimes it's just like, I feel like they do not fully get it. Like, I try to understand where they come from, and I know 90% of the time it comes from a very pure and happy place. So listen, put yourself first sometimes and make yourself happy. And I do try, but it could never be like that. Like, it could never be that easy for us. You know, cerebral palsy is painful. And with my baby sister, the older she grows and the more she grows and the bigger she gets, it's complicating further. Medication that worked 5 years ago may not work today. Not even may not. Medication that worked 5 years ago does not work today. Besides medication she takes for, her epilepsy. But she needs to be controlled for her asthma. She needs to be controlled for the pain coming from her dislocated hip, coming from her bent spine. Seizures are controlled. Physically sitting has to be controlled. Her happiness and her moods and her favorites have to be controlled. What she eats has to be controlled because it has an effect on her internally. She can't consume a lot of dairy because that also has an effect on her respiratory system and her digestive system. Stool movement has to be controlled because she can't get too constipated, but she can't have diarrhea. Hydration has to be controlled. Her eating has to be controlled. And it's just, you can never ask enough, but at the same time you do not want to ask because sometimes it feels like you're bothering people. And I know that people say that, oh no, please ask us, but when it's time to do that, it becomes a different story. And one big thing is that people with cerebral palsy are expensive. People with this condition require high medical maintenance, physical maintenance, and literally just what they eat. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Sometimes I wish I could take away the pain from my parents. Sometimes I know that I can't. And I think people can exercise a lot more kindness and a lot more understanding and a lot more time trying to educate themselves. My parents have been criticized. This is absolutely out of topic. My parents have been criticized for being working class citizens in the middle class, but they live where we live. First of all, there's nothing wrong with our home. Like, I love my home. My parents have made sure that we have a warm, happy, loving home. Despite having a baby that has a condition as serious and as big as this, they've always made sure that their other children were okay. My mom is a mother that gets up for her kids. So recently, something was said about them that literally broke their hearts, but there's nothing they can do about it because, again, I think it goes back into educating yourselves about what's going on. My parents are working class citizens, and they happen to spend a lot more of their income on my baby sister to make sure that she's got the food that she needs, the nutrition that she needs, which is outside of our normal diet. The medication alone, my sister's medication every month costs around 2,000 rands, and those are just the basics. Sometimes when she needs more, more money has to be coughed out. She can't take her dietary needs are different than ours, so she needs to compensate on some things. And it's just like, people just never sit down to think about these things before they cost other things. But it's never easy. It's it's painful. It's one of the most painful things you'll ever experience, and it'll break you, but at the same time it's one of the most fulfilling things, and it'll build you. So there's like, you just need a team of people helping you around that, whether they physically helping you, whether they, you know, praying for you guys, whether they referring, you know, specialists to help you deal with this. We have a team of people, and I think maybe sometime I will do a video where I speak on the team of people, or the team of doctors that we've had and consulted with, and we have had throughout the years with us in our lives, and create another video where I talk about the medication alone. But the one thing that I can tell you right now, from a person that experiences it all the time, is that if you know someone, or you know, it's in your heart to try and acquaint yourself, be a little more kind, be a little more understanding. You don't know what that family goes through in a matter of 24 hours. If I could have like a camera crew following us for 24 hours, people will then understand. But that's not an idea. I would like to protect my family's privacy. But all in all, I think part of why I wanted to start this channel was maybe somehow create content that caters to this. So if God allows, and if it's in my heart, and if it's something that I should be doing, I will create more content around this, and I'll talk more on it. And I would like to invite people to walk this journey with me, and you know, help me learn some things, and help me teach other people something. So if you know someone that has a person with this type of disability, or any type of disability, because the effect is the same on the people around them, please tell them to come watch my channel, and we could try and create a community and a platform for people to support one another through this. But I hope that you guys could hear me clearly. I hope that you know, it's not going to be too long. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Be kind, like one another, you know, love one another, pray for one another, and I hope you guys are good wherever you are. Have a good day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.